On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected.
Thank you to all our amazing channel members for your generous support.
Barbara Lawrence was a multifaceted talent of mid-20th century Hollywood, a model, actress, and later a literary agent whose life reflected the golden yet turbulent age of American cinema. Born in 1930, she rose to fame during an era when glamour and discipline defined stardom, appearing in classics like Oklahoma, 1955, and Margie, 1946. Her death in 2013 at the age of 83 came from natural causes after a long and quiet life away from the limelight. The peaceful nature of her passing contrasted starkly with the demanding and often unforgiving Hollywood system that had shaped her youth. Her death symbolized the closing of a chapter from an era when actresses were often defined by the studios that controlled their image. Lawrence belonged to a generation of performers who navigated the rigid structures of post-war Hollywood, where talent, beauty, and conformity were all part of a carefully managed persona. As the decades passed, her departure invited reflection on how the entertainment industry itself had transformed, from an institution of strict studio control to a space where individuality and personal voice were more freely expressed. In this sense, her life and death bridged two cinematic worlds, the controlled past and the liberated present. The immediate consequences of her passing were subtle but meaningful. While not a household name by the time of her death, fans and historians of classic film revisited her body of work, recognizing her as part of the constellation of performers who gave depth and character to Hollywood's golden age. Her career, once overshadowed by more famous contemporaries, gained renewed appreciation in the context of cinematic history, illustrating how even supporting figures contribute enduring value to the cultural narrative. Barbara Lawrence's legacy is one of quiet resilience and transformation. Her story reflects the broader experience of women in mid-century entertainment, navigating fame, gender expectations, and the shifting tides of public attention. In remembering her, we see the universal human desire to be recognized not merely for fame, but for craft and contribution. Her commemoration continues through film retrospectives, online archives, and the enduring accessibility of her performances. Lawrence's life and death remind us that mortality does not erase influence. Rather, it transforms it into memory. Through art, cinema, and the stories we continue to tell, figures like Barbara Lawrence remain part of humanity's ongoing dialogue with beauty, impermanence, and the enduring power of legacy. Janet Lupo was an emblem of 1970s American beauty culture, a model and actress best known for being Playboy's Playmate of the Month in November 1975. Her life reflected the shifting dynamics of female representation during a decade defined by both sexual liberation and the growing feminist movement. Lupo passed away in 2017 at the age of 67 from natural causes. Her death marked not only the loss of a figure who once symbolized glamour and allure, but also a reminder of an era when cultural perceptions of femininity and empowerment were being reshaped in bold, complex ways. Lupo's career unfolded at a time when the Playboy brand held enormous cultural influence, embodying both the freedom and the contradictions of the sexual revolution. Women like Lupo found themselves at the intersection of admiration and objectification, celebrated for their beauty, but often constrained by the image it created. Her quiet passing, away from the flashbulbs and fame of her youth, symbolized how fleeting that form of celebrity could be, and how the women behind the images were often more nuanced, resilient, and human than the magazine pages suggested. In the years following her death, tributes from fans and collectors of classic Playboy editions revealed a deep nostalgia for a bygone era, yet her legacy has also been reconsidered through a modern lens, as cultural historians reassess the role of women like Lupo in shaping conversations about autonomy and identity in media. Her passing, while not sensationalized, reignited reflection on the way society continues to define and value women's visibility. Janet Lupo's story illustrates the delicate balance between personal authenticity and public persona. She lived a life that, while marked by early fame, ultimately found peace and privacy in later years, a contrast to the often destructive paths of many who shared her spotlight. Her death did not alter the trajectory of history, but it did contribute to a broader cultural memory that continues to question how beauty, fame, and agency intertwine. In remembering Lupo, we see how humanity immortalizes figures through nostalgia and reinterpretation. Photographs, archived interviews, and fan recollections preserve her not as an icon of idealized perfection, but as a woman who embodied both the allure and the complexity of her time. Through such remembrance, Janet Lupo remains part of our collective reflection on how beauty fades, but influence, when grounded in cultural truth, endures far beyond mortality. Peter Sutcliffe, infamously known as the Yorkshire Ripper, remains one of the most notorious serial killers in British history. His death in November 2020 at the age of 74 came after years of imprisonment, marking the end of a figure whose crimes had haunted the United Kingdom for decades. Sutcliffe died from complications related to COVID-19, compounded by underlying health issues while serving a life sentence at HM Prison, Franklin. His passing, though natural, reignited deep public emotions, revulsion, relief, and sorrow for his victims, reflecting how the legacy of violence can persist long after the perpetrator is gone. Sutcliffe's crimes, spanning from 1975 to 1980, reflected both the fear and the social turmoil of the era. The women he murdered, many of them marginalized by class or circumstance, exposed the dark intersections of misogyny, economic hardship, and police bias. When news broke of his death, it reopened wounds for survivors and families of victims who had lived for decades under the shadow of his brutality. To many, his demise symbolized a form of closure, however incomplete, for a nation that had struggled to comprehend the scale and cruelty of his actions. The immediate consequences of his death were not historical shifts, but emotional reckonings. The British press revisited the failures of the original investigation, where systemic sexism had hindered progress, and explored how the case reshaped modern policing. His death also prompted renewed discussion about how society should remember figures who embody human depravity, whether their names should fade into infamy or remain as stark reminders of the need for justice and reform. Sutcliffe's passing underscores a broader human truth, that death, even for the most reviled, invites reflection on morality, accountability, and the enduring scars of violence. While his name evokes horror rather than heroism, the continued study of his case reveals humanity's determination to understand evil, not to glorify it, but to prevent its recurrence. We immortalize such figures not through celebration, but through education, documentaries, criminological analyses, and memorials to victims ensure that the focus shifts from the perpetrator to the lives lost and lessons learned. In the end, Peter Sutcliffe's death closed one chapter of terror, but his story remains a mirror to the darker capacities of human nature and the unyielding pursuit of justice that follows. Valerie Hobson, one of Britain's most graceful and accomplished actresses of the 1930s and 1940s, lived a life intertwined with both glamour and scandal. Her passing in 1998 at the age of 81 was attributed to natural causes, closing the curtain on a life that had moved from the brilliance of the screen to the complexities of personal sacrifice and social upheaval, Hobson's death, though peaceful, reflected a generation of British women who had endured and adapted through the turbulence of the 20th century. War, shifting gender roles, and the pressures of fame and family, rising to prominence with films such as Bride of Frankenstein, 1935, Great Expectations, 1946, and Kind Hearts and Coronets, 1949, Hobson embodied the poised elegance of post-war British cinema. Yet her life off-screen was equally dramatic. In 1954, she married British politician John Profumo, whose later involvement in the infamous Profumo Affair of 1963 would shake the foundations of British politics. When the scandal broke, Hobson stood by her husband with remarkable dignity, a decision that defined public perception of her character as one of loyalty and composure amid public disgrace. Her death prompted a wave of retrospection, not just on her artistic achievements, but also on her quiet strength in the face of national scandal. She had long since retired from acting, focusing instead on family and philanthropy, yet her name remained linked to a period when personal morality and public duty collided in the spotlight. The calmness of her death contrasted with the drama of her life, echoing a cultural shift from the era of rigid propriety to one more forgiving and nuanced about human flaws. In the wake of her passing, Hobson was remembered as a symbol of old-world grace, an actress whose talent and personal fortitude bridged two Britons, one bound by class and decorum, and another moving toward modern transparency. Her legacy invites reflection on how we remember public figures who endure both triumph and scandal. Through her films, she remains immortalized in celluloid, her performances still teaching lessons about restraint, resilience, and dignity. Ultimately, Valerie Hobson's life and death reveal humanity's deep fascination with redemption and remembrance. We honor such figures not merely for their fame, but for the way their lives mirror our own complex search for grace amidst imperfection. Junior Samples was an unlikely American icon, a gravel-voiced, good-natured country comedian whose humor captured the heart of rural America during the late 1960s and 1970s. Born in Georgia in 1926, Samples rose from humble beginnings as a used car salesman to national fame on the television variety show Hee Haw. His passing in 1983, at the age of 57, was the result of a heart attack, an abrupt and natural end that reflected the quiet tragedy of many entertainers who embodied the working-class spirit of their time, yet lived under the heavy pressures of sudden fame. Samples' death came during an era when television comedy was shifting away from regional humor toward more urbanized, fast-paced formats. His down-home style, slow, deliberate, and steeped in Southern storytelling, represented a vanishing America, one rooted in simplicity and self-deprecating wit. When he died, it felt like the loss of a bridge between two cultural worlds, the rural communities that once defined much of American identity and the rapidly modernizing society of the 1980s. On Hee Haw, Samples became a household name through recurring sketches such as Used Car Salesman and Junior's Used Cars, where his unpolished charm and exaggerated drawl created laughter without cruelty. His humor was gentle, poking fun at everyday struggles rather than people themselves, a reflection of the era's desire for warmth and authenticity amid political and economic uncertainty. His death left a void in American entertainment, signaling the fading of a kind of television that celebrated ordinary folk without irony or cynicism. In many ways, Samples' passing amplified his legend. To his fans, he remained a symbol of genuine humor, a reminder that comedy did not need sophistication or glamour to resonate deeply. His recordings, reruns, and old Hee Haw clips continue to circulate, preserving his legacy as a timeless emblem of the American South's comedic traditions. reflecting on Junior Sample's life and death, reveals much about humanity's relationship with memory and nostalgia. His enduring appeal lies in his authenticity, an honesty that transcended performance. Through laughter, he reminded audiences of a shared humanity that cuts across class and culture. We immortalize figures like him, not with monuments, but with the joy they leave behind, echoes of laughter that continue to unite generations long after the spotlight fades. Enzo Maiorca was more than a champion freediver. He was a philosopher of the deep, a man who believed the sea reflected the human soul. Born in Syracuse, Italy, in 1931, Maiorca became one of the greatest freedivers in history, repeatedly breaking world records by plunging hundreds of feet beneath the ocean surface without breathing apparatus. His life was a constant dialogue with nature, discipline, and mortality. He passed away in 2016 at the age of 85 from natural causes in his hometown, leaving behind a legacy that transcended sport. Maiorca's life and death mirrored the evolving relationship between humanity and nature during the 20th century. His early career unfolded during an era when technology and industry were reshaping the modern world, yet he sought meaning in simplicity, in the raw physical communion between man and sea. His record-breaking dives, often exceeding depths that scientists once thought impossible for human survival, reflected both the daring spirit and the existential questions of his time. How far can the human body and will truly go? The immediate response to Maiorca's death was one of reverence, not just from sports enthusiasts, but from philosophers, environmentalists, and artists. To Italians, he symbolized endurance and respect for the natural world. His passing prompted renewed reflection on the human desire to test limits without domination. To conquer, yet remain humble before the vastness of nature, Maiorca's legend only grew after his death. He had long been portrayed as a mythic figure in popular culture, inspiring characters such as Enzo Molinari in the 1988 film The Big Blue, a cinematic ode to the mystical bond between man and the ocean. Through such representations, Maiorca became immortalized not as a mere athlete, but as a poetic embodiment of courage and serenity, proof that greatness need not come from conquest, but from harmony with one's environment. His story reminds us that mortality is not an end, but a transformation. Humanity remembers those who face nature and themselves with reverence, not fear. Through art, film, and memory, we preserve Maiorca's image as a man who dared to meet the sea on its own terms, a testament to our eternal fascination with both the depths of the ocean and the human spirit. Faye Baker was an American actress and writer whose life bridged the glamour of Hollywood's golden age and the intellectual rigor of mid-20th century literature. Born in 1917, she built her career through roles in film and television, appearing in works like Notorious, 1946, and The House on Telegraph Hill, 1951. Yet behind the shimmering facade of the entertainment world, Baker faced personal battles that mirrored the silent struggles of many women in her generation, striving to balance creativity, motherhood, and personal identity in a culture that often limited female autonomy. She passed away in 1987 at the age of 70, following a long battle with breast cancer, a natural but painful end that reflected both her resilience and her era's growing confrontation with illness and mortality. Her death was emblematic of a transitional period in American society when conversations about disease, especially among women, were becoming more open. In the decades prior, such conditions were often cloaked in silence or shame. Baker, who had already challenged taboos through her candid writing, particularly her novel The Whipping Boy, published under the pseudonym Beth Holmes, left behind more than performances. She left a record of emotional honesty. Her decision to write under a pseudonym symbolized both the restrictions and creative strategies of women in post-war America. The immediate aftermath of her death brought quiet recognition rather than spectacle. Yet, in literary and feminist circles, her work began to be reassessed as part of a larger movement of women reclaiming their narratives from Hollywood's male-dominated industry. Baker's courage in translating personal pain into art resonated with later generations of female writers who sought to bridge private experience and public discourse. In reflecting on her life and death, one sees how mortality can illuminate the persistence of art over fame. Baker's legacy, though subtle compared to Hollywood icons, underscores how remembrance often grows in the quiet spaces of truth and vulnerability. Humanity immortalizes such figures not with statues or blockbusters, but through the endurance of their words and the empathy they evoke. Faye Baker's story, both lived and written, stands as a reminder that dignity in the face of suffering is a form of artistry in itself, a legacy that time, like illness, cannot erase.